Now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context.
Listen in and please subscribe. We're going to recap everything.
Children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through merit.
But how will you reunite these kids with their families,
let me just tell you,
Mr. President?
They built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you have a plan to reunite the kids?
Yes, we're working on it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500.
Before we let him finish right there, what does the coyote reference mean? Is that like meaning like a smugglers or whatever? Somebody correct me. Now listen, I gotta be honest with you. I guess I'm what they call a liberal. I never really believed in politicians. I'm attracted to this year's elections and the 2016 elections because I was like, oh shit, this is different. That is no way saying I'm a MAGA Trump supporter. That is no way saying that I'm a Joe Biden supporter. There is no way saying that I'm a Black Lives Matter supporter. I'm just here covering this shit like I would if I was covering the fight. Because in this day and age, when you looked at we're 11 days or so away from election, how long? 11 days, 2 hours, 11 days from election. An election where, depending on who wins, either or can win and cities will likely burn. One thing I must point out is I do work in the field of father's advocacy. Sometime in the next year or so, God willing, I'm going to have a nonprofit called FathersAgainstAbuse.com. I've had to research some of the darkest things I never thought I would ever, because you if you're going to be involved in bringing families together and keeping families together, children with fathers and vice versa, and making sure, the nuclear family stays together, making sure that you don't have these, we're going to use, I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get demonetized, but chomos, kitty fiddlers. You got to know what to look out for. And I've learned some stuff just from research, and I read some books, and it's just like, I wish I never knew. So when something like this comes up about children being missing and taken away from their parents and separated from their parents, that opens them up for abuse, because they're like, oh shit, you by yourself? That's how them chomos think. So that right there is a big deal. It's like, yo, you can't really, you can't joke around about shit, or you can't, it's not like the bleach thing. He said he, inject bleach. I just was joking. A president can't joke around like that. And I don't think he was joking. I think he just brain fart or whatever the case may be. Just can't play around like that, And then when it comes to, let me just let it play through. I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. This is something I've been dabbling in for the last, few years or so. And I'm really trying to get the jump start. And I'm very close to, being a sports guy, combat sports, but also, world news. Let's listen in. And we will be here election night.
Plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up question.
Kristen, they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response to that?
They did it. We changed.
did not
They built the
separate
cages.
They,
Who built the cages, Joe?
let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds,
We
and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you a question.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
and
of
have
them
gotten
haven't been
such
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask.
That's deflection right there. Now that whole topic alone can have its own video. Do you know that over 450,000 or so children in the United States go missing per year? 200,000 or so is usually a custody dispute. 50 or so thousand. Now my numbers may be a little crude, but you can look it up for yourself. But the deeper you dig, the darker the numbers get. 50 or so thousand of them are the innocents taken away, if you get where I'm going. So children without their parents are high risk. And it's a shame that we live in a world that a horrible amount of the time, it be the parents or family members. It's weird. But anyway, I'm getting a little, let's change the subject. So we're going to do a jump cut, jump on to the next subject. If I was to really, really rate a winner of this press conference, I would say Donald Trump. I gave the first, not press conference, debate to Joe Biden. Now remember, I'm looking at it from both sides. I see flaws in both, and it's like, we got to vote, So Donald Trump was much more poised, calm, empathetic, sympathetic, wherever you want to say, and he made sure to not go out there and be overly aggressive and abrasive. Joe just seems as though he's always like in his bunker practicing, and he started talking to you, and what we're going to do is, for the American people, we're going to make, like, it just seems scripted. It don't come, like, he talks to us like a politician, and sometimes I forget, oh shit, that's the way it was when I was growing up. I'm 37, by the way. And I come from a Democratic family. My grandparents, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, like, before God rest their souls, that was them. They could do no wrong. Like, oh well, Bill, that woman with the cigar, she knew what she was doing. That was my grandma. Talking about Monica Lewinsky. God rest her soul, grandma. But anyway, jump cut. We're gonna move on to the next topic.
In God's name, they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do.
Now, what Joe's about to say here is some real shit. Now, of course, you can never expect for him to really understand. And of course, this has been scripted, and they probably told him, well, if this has come up, make sure you know to say this. Now, me, I've been there. I've been framed twice in my life. I've been a victim of dodgy police work, fucked up court work. Hell, I got a daughter out there I haven't even seen for God knows how much. Why? It's because of something called systematic racism, where we go into courtrooms, especially us Black men representing ourselves. They don't listen to us. You have no idea. But to stay on topic, the neighborhood I'm in, I'm right on the outside of, Philadelphia. So the first year I was around here, I used to walk to the gas station with a hoodie on. I wear hoodies all the time. And then with a hoodie on. It just so happened I had these black Jordan sweatpants on, black Jordan hoodie, just all black, hoodie, sweatsuit. And I'm walking to, the gas station for some snacks. It's about like midnight or so. So I'm walking and I cut the corner and I noticed these lights come on. And I guess he was like sitting on, okay, I'm going to tell you, he live around here. So as I'm walking, I notice like he following me, like the cop. And like he put his lights on it, then shine the joint real fast and then like pull off. Like motherfucker, you know? Or the many times like where I would get pulled over by the police and Philadelphia police and they just talk to you all crazy. You can be one simple mistake, of like something like, oh well, yeah, I left my license somewhere, whatever. It's like, oh, so motherfuckers like you always lying. Like, they be having that mouth on them, you know? So it is true. You have to prepare your kids these days for that talk and be like, listen, man, like they scared of you. I have my feelings. I am in no way, shape, or form for defund the police. I'm for better training, yes. Period. Better mental health, assessments, better people's, all that training. Overhaul. For example, I was on a Zoom call, a stop the violence, gun violence Zoom call with the Philadelphia district attorney and just Philadelphia city councilman. And basically I'm listening to them and I'm listening to the things that they're saying about like stopping street violence and what has to be done. And I know I'm going on a little bit of a rant, but I'm sorry. But the point I'm trying to make is on that Zoom, the DA, Philadelphia district attorney, was talking about how Philadelphia, from March up until that point of the Zoom, have spent $50 million or some shit. Or I forgot the exact number. I think it was $50 million on police overtime because of all the civil unrest. But while to be able to solve a lot of those crimes, they needed just a fraction of that money to update forensics. Or that money could be gone. It's just all. Anyway, let's get to it. But what Joe's about to say here is some real shit because you got to have this talk.
I do. My daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you.
I've always learned at a young age, like, don't pull out your license until they ask you for it. Don't go reach into your glove box or for your insurance card. No, nothing until they ask for it. Like, I always wait. I roll my window down, I put my arm out, I let my arm sit out the window. And the other arm is always like on the dashboard, and I'm always looking. And if I can, recently, about a year or so ago, turn on, any type of recording device secretly and everything. And yo, man, like, why we got to go through that shit?
But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes, yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black.
Now, since I have this technology here, let's look that up. Because now remember, like I said, I'm not acting like I'm a regular guy. You see what I'm saying? I'm a regular guy. So when I'm hearing stuff like this, I'm thinking like, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Let's see something. Oh, they got video. Let's roll the tape. We're gonna pull the tape back, Joe. We're gonna pull the tape back, Joe. We're gonna pull the tape back, Joe. Now, don't get me wrong. We all know Trump say some fucking crazy ass shit too, some bigot shit. You see what I'm saying? But it's like, what's the worst of two evils, Now, I gotta be honest with you. Do I feel that Donald Trump is genuinely a racist? No. Do I feel as though he say racist and bigot shit? Yes. But do I think he go to bed like I hate all these black people and all that type of shit? Like, nah. Just some rich white man. Do I think that Joe Biden got that creepy Joe shit? I'm just glad I didn't read about him in any of those P-gate emails. You dig me? And I read a lot of them joints, and I was like, yo, let me tell you. And I feel a lot of people were kind of influenced by that too when it came to the 2016 elections. Because I was reading, like, wait a minute, what? I was, But anyway, let's check out this super predator thing right here. Let's check this out. Check this out.
It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that.
Okay, so my first time ever seeing that. November 1993, the height of, you can say, the crack cocaine epidemic in neighborhoods. I remember those times. Crack vials on the street, little small urban blocks doing $10,000 plus a day. He was the two predators were the black people he was talking about. That's no sugarcoating, and I'm not one to fall. I've always been known to be a critical thinker, and I'm not one to fall for words. I always look at like, okay, what did they really mean by that, And the thing is, he's right though when it comes to, we got to keep we got to keep the families together, man. There's so much to keep us out of our children's lives than it is to keep us in our children's lives. Have you noticed that? But for him to go ahead and say he doesn't care why about those factors, and yes, rehabilitate him, but keep him in jail, it's like, nah, bro. What are you talking about? Like, get us off the streets and keep, and it's like, correct the problems that are solved, correct the issues that are creating these problems. And that's why when it comes to politicians, look how lively and vibrant he was. Yeah, you can say, okay, well, this was 27 years ago. Times have greatly changed, but that man is still in there. That's why I say when it comes to both of these candidates, and damn, we're running late on the video, and we haven't even got to, minimum wage, which I agree with Trump on that. Yeah, you know what? We're going to jump to, I got my timestamps here. We got to talk about the taxes because that's fucked up. How Joe Biden, always stumbles when it comes to more shutdowns. Now think about it like this, right? I'm a recluse. Legally, because of my job, I'm supposed to be home 80 hours of the week. And because of safety concerns, I'm a caregiver. I care for my father. I get paid from the state to care for my father. And because of that, even when I am out briefly, I'm still always concerned and shit, So when I think about like the shutdown, I am on paper, legally, I am an essential worker. When I do my food shopping and everything, I'm out there. But what I've noticed is once a week, me and my lady, we do indulge, even though I feel bad. Like when I go to a restaurant, I feel bad. Like I'm not supposed to be out. Like, oh, the corona's all. I'm always looking over my shoulders and shit. But why do we got to live in fear like that? Now, I'll share with you. 2 years ago, I was in a coma. I had full respiratory failure. I was on a respirator. I clinically have asthma. I haven't had an asthma attack since. I, had something called ECMO. I was supposed to be dead. I was. My shit was done. Long story short, I'm here. Long story. So I know what it's like to be in the ICU. I know what it's like for your lungs. Like the COVID symptoms, I had all that shit. The treatment for the worst COVID symptoms, I went through it. So I guess what I'm saying is this. At this point in time, I'm looking, and when I'm at a restaurant and I'm thinking about the restaurant workers, I always make sure. I've always been, a 25-30% tipper because I was a bartender for years. It's just something that anybody in the service industry, usually do. You always make sure you take care of everybody. So now I'm on some 40 percent type shit because I'm thinking like, damn, you got limited tables and you don't know if they're going to shut shit down again. We got 200 plus dead. We're going into the fall, and where I'm at on the outside of Philly, it's the flu season. The flu season is lurking. I'm already next week, Monday. I'm getting a deep freezer. I'm preparing for food for 3 months for me and then people close to me. Because you don't know. And then when it comes to the election, the civil unrest. I was there, boots on the ground. If you really want to see, YouTube TstreeT, Tstreet, Philly riots or Philadelphia looting. I was there, boots on the ground, live streaming, real time, as I watched people just turn into animals over sneakers and shit, and liquor. And I'm sitting there recording like this is some once in a lifetime shit. So I can only imagine when it comes to election. And I don't want to be caught up in it. But anyway, let's get to the next timestamp. Please subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot more of this. So once again, I'm working on and I'm pumping money into it. Father's advocacy thing I've been working on. And it's expensive and it's a lot of education. So I thought I was going to be able just to, oh yeah, I'll be able to open this up in a couple of months. Wrong. But one thing for sure is I'm making sure that once it's open, it's going to be around. And also, we're going into true crime and documentaries. So even though I'm still going to be doing combat sports is my thing, but it taught me a lot in regards to YouTube, monetization, editing. I'm learning a lot. Like, even though I'm home and I'm a recluse and I'm quarantined pretty much, I'm educating myself every day, like home online classes. So couple more jump cuts and we'll try to wrap this up, because we still got more timestamps. Please subscribe.
Of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him.
What is he
Criminal
talking about?
justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the Black and Hispanic communities, and then historically Black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every.
You can clearly tell he doesn't understand. He's deflecting and going around the question. I mean, yeah, the Joe Biden shot right there, that was a good shot, but it's like, yo, bro, answer the question.
There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the me of saying. The fact of the matter is,
Gave them more money.
Oh, this is when Joe Biden gonna call him Abraham Lincoln. Oh, and that was ugly too. Ugly fumble by Joe Biden right here coming up.
Than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them and they like me and I like them. But I saved it. Colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice President?
my response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is
What was that scandal in the 90s, the New York thing that Trump had some shit to say about? We all know how he feels about gangs and all that. And I have no feelings in my heart that he actually understands how that shit works. Now, in Philly, we don't have gangs like Bloods and Crips and Southside Lords and shit all like that, but I was involved in the clique and growing up on no bullshit. And I still, I be thinking like I was a dickhead. I was a young kid, even I wasn't raised by my father. It's funny now that I take care of my father, but I wasn't raised by my father. I wasn't raised by my mother. I was raised by my grandparents. Church folks. So pretty much, I had a lot of leeway. So I got involved in the clique and ended up we were doing gang shit. So it was one of them things it was like sink or swim. If you ain't never been through it, you don't know what it's like. Like when it's like, yo, if you don't do this, then we gonna fuck you up. Like that type. So I can tell that Trump he ain't never been through no shit like that. So he can say like, oh well, gang guys and everything. You never know. A lot of them guys are in jail right now for some dumb shit that they did when they were 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. And I bet you they would never do it again. Or society will never give them another chance because apparently look at bills like Joe Biden was trying to pass. So you see how when it comes to politicians, you know, it's crazy. See how it circles back around?
Central Park five innocent
Central
black
Park
kids.
5.
He continued to push for making sure that they got.
I haven't seen that Netflix special yet. The chick I was dealing with at the time, I was trying to watch it, and she was like older woman, you know, she's like 10 years older than me. Trying to watch it, and she was like, I remember when all that happened. I don't want to watch none of that. It's gonna make me mad. So I'm guessing she remember all the little news clips and whatever, but I never watched it. I did do some light research on it, and usually that stuff is right up my alley. But I was framed twice. Like once when I was 16, couldn't even drive, and another one where the cops arrested all of us because some asshole got mad because the chick didn't give him some vagina. You know, so the cops charged us with all the same shit. Man. Anyway, but I'm not for like defunding the police though. I'm not for defunding the police. It's crazy how that works.
The death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were. The date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who were going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences, over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you do it? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do and you're going to do this, but you were there just a short time ago and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response?
That was deep right there. You know, and that's primarily one of the reasons why he won. And in my opinion, it was kind of like a troll too. You know? Like people like Donald Trump because he don't talk like a politician. They like, wow, you know, like, yeah, he a little kooky, got his quirks, but he talked to us. You know, and it's kind of jarring now listening to I don't want to say a real politician. I don't want to get good on that, but a politician a lifelong politician like Joe Biden, you just hear like, oh shit, you're really a politician. So let's go. Let's go here. You know, also, I am, you know, impressed with what Donald Trump was able to accomplish in North Korea. Because we were always taught growing up, you know, that they're the enemies and all that and everything. So when you seeing him going back and forth, fucking threatening motherfucking Kim Jong-un on Twitter, and I'm like, motherfucker's crazy as shit. And then to see him like chilling and shaking hands and shit, it's like, all right, that's what's up, you know? But I've learned that especially when you're black, you're not supposed to give him any credit for like anything, you know? Because people look at you like, oh, motherfucking coon. Like that type shit. It's like, yo, like chill. You know, where's that my timestamp? Now this right here, he always dances around it, but he does have a point though, because the presidential harassment thing. Let's start right here, and it's with the taxes. Because see, it's like this: you expect for a billionaire to pay, you know, the most taxes of anybody, right? If you're getting tax write-offs and the country allows you to do it, but it's the moral thing to say, like, no, for a billionaire, I guess, to say, like, no, I'm going to give more. I know I can get all these, tax breaks, but no, the hell with all that. I don't know any billionaires that's going to do that. I don't know how it works. So it's like, when I hear that, and I'm hearing like, wait a minute, he only paid $750 in taxes? How does that work? Does that mean like his businesses are taxed and shit? See, it's like, I'm not the type of motherfucker, just like when it comes to boxing. I'm not going to just go talking about shit I don't know nothing about. Just, that's not who I am. Like in boxing, there's this thing of talking about fighters' purses, what they made and what they should and should not be making. I don't go down that route. I'll post it like, oh shit, he's making $28 million. But I'm not going to be like, oh, he don't deserve that and all that. And we don't know. So when it comes to this tax shit, it's like, all right, let me tell you, I owe motherfucker $2,600 to the IRS, and I gotta have that shit by motherfucking January, all right? So no motherfucking get me motherfucking started. Shit. And there's no fault of my own. Motherfucking parental alienation. But there's a whole different story. Either way. Like, so don't get me started on that shit. Fuck was I saying? Oh, that's with penalties. What was I saying? And I was in a coma. So I was a little behind. So chill. All right. Shit, motherfuckers. And they wait for you to IRS. They wait for it to build up too. Ask Floyd Mayweather before they come get you. What was that? Oh, the timestamp. The timestamp. Yeah, 53. Yeah, right here. Listen in.
That, excuse me, and it wasn't written. Whenever they write this, they keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both.
I need to get the gist of this Hunter Biden laptop thing, because it's too many conflicting stories. And I did see the Rudy Giuliani stuff. See, politics are crazy, but you always have to remember they're regular people. They have vices and deviancies and all that. Like, you can't put these people up to be like up above and all that. Look at the black politician dude that was down there in Miami doing whatever. And we already talked about those. I've read those P emails, pod emails. You know what I'm talking about? So it's just like, yo, them motherfuckers be weird. They do. So when I'm thinking about this laptop, I'm thinking about, okay, well, Trump probably not going to bring up the other stuff on the air, but when it comes to, it's just like, it's some weird stuff going on, man.
All of this, but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly.
I need more research.
You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them to the American people?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because I have a lot of people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised, to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on, folks.
So,
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you on this.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong.
And let me tell you, they were trying hard. I remember when, like, I got a link and it was like Rachel Maddow crying. And I don't watch none of it. Let me tell you. So what I do is I'm the guy where I was like, okay, watch CNN for a little bit, watch MSNBC for a little bit, watch Fox News for a little bit. I have no like affiliation. I'm like, I'm only going to watch them. I just be like, let me see what the real motherfucking spin is. And you know, when it comes to CNN, MSNBC, and all them, they going like complete straight Joe Biden. You know, they'll be like, well, he made a little bit of mistakes, and Democrats made a little bit of mistake. Over on Fox News, they are Trump, straight pro-Trump, but they do mix the shit in. Like, well, he could have been like, so it's like, you know what the affiliations be. This is like, why the news got to be like that? That shit weird. So, you know, we're in a generation where the media does lie to you, you know, and you got to like be independent and do the research on your own. But damn, I didn't want this video to be this long. So let's go here, though. This is important right here. This is very important because I agree to an extent. And you know what? I just be wanting, I ain't gonna lie. I just be thinking like, come on, Joe, you can do it. But I don't think you're gonna do it. You know? And a part of me, man, like he like 77 years old. Is he gonna make it to the end of his term? For Christ's sakes. But, you know, I'm not wishing that on nobody. It's like, man, it's a lot of scary. Just make sure you and your family are preparing for Election Day. Make sure you're ready, just in case. Because you never know. Either side wins, it's going to be. Imagine if Joe wins, it's going to be parade. I don't know. My mom told me yesterday that if Trump wins, that, like, it's going to be a whole bunch of racists on the streets, just walking down the streets with their guns. But yet, if Trump wins, that like cities are going to burn, looting is just going to be outrageous, like of the likes you never see, to the point where it's just like National Guard type shit. And that's what I'm preparing for.
Single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to immigration,
one thing very
but
quickly,
I want to get your
we have
reaction.
to help our small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very recently.
We have to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses. How are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Is that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but
in
what I really like,
in
a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk.
So let me give my thoughts on that. As a small business owner, right now, think about it like this: $15 minimum wage. I remember when I first started working, it was like $4.75 or some shit, wasn't it? 1995, 1996. When I got my working papers, I don't remember. But to the lower class, $15 a month is a lot. Living in New York needs to be at least, listen, $15 ain't shit in New York an hour. $15 in LA an hour ain't shit. $15 in Philly ain't shit. I agree with Trump on this in regards to it should be a state by state option, a cost of living type thing. Because say, for example, what's somewhere where the cost of living is really low? A small town in Ohio where it's just a little small bakery where they're barely getting by. Now, the workers may be fine. Like, oh, yes, we're getting $15 an hour. But then the owners are looking like, oh, we got to like pay this. And we was barely getting by before. You know, now we got to lay off such and such to be able to make up for their two raises because of the minimum wage. You see what I'm saying? Where the cost of living is low, it can, so making it $15 universally across the board for every state, every city, every town. I'm not educated on the matter to say where but from the outside looking in, from what Trump is saying, I agree. But I hear what Joe Biden is saying, because his goal, he's a Democrat. He's trying to appeal to the poor people. He wants to tell you exactly what you want to hear. You see what I'm saying? Whether it affects you or not, whether you're that one of 3 that has to get laid off because the minimum wage has went up and they chose to lay you off to be able to compensate for the other 2 that are left at the job in that little bakery. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, but politicians, they do that. So right now, looking at it, and there's a lot of key points in this debate, because I was sitting there watching, and even though it's calm, it's not them. They got a lot more done than they did in the first one. So we're gonna go one more jump cut. We're at 48 minutes. We got 12 more minutes left. I wanted a half an hour, but we had an hour now. So
we're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are 2 companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics, And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice
I must say that I'm not I'm not for a rushed vaccine. You know, in fact, I have some concerns because with my profession, they probably going to try to force me to take a vaccine. I told you about the coma story, right? Well, not only was I high risk, I had I was hospitalized like 40 something plus times since like 2013. So, I ended up getting the flu shot for the first time in like 3 years. I get the flu, ends up becoming pneumonia. Already had asthma issues, had full respiratory failure, had to be airlifted, by the way. So basically, when it comes to vaccines, I'm like, you know, and that first trial of COVID vaccines, as I said, I watch a lot of documentaries, man. So here's a little bit of stats for you. This is from Ronna McDaniel. For those keeping score, moderator interruptions for each candidate: Biden 8, Trump 41. I did notice that though, but we kind of knew that though. We kind of knew they were expecting for him to. Fact check: did Joe Biden really call Donald Trump xenophobic for stopping flights from China? He did. I'm still researching the Hunter Biden story. We don't limit comments here on the channel. So I'm interested. Like, send me some new stuff. Also, yes, I have seen The Fall Cabal, and part 2 she's been working on. Right? Didn't she post that part 2 was on her on BitChute? And I do have BitChute. I'll be on there. I'm telling you, I'm listen. I be researching, man. I be researching. But the whole vaccine stuff, see, listen, I'm not like, none of these motherfuckers are perfect. I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not a Biden guy. But one thing is, I don't like being lied to, man. And I don't like being talked down to, talked to like a politician pretty much. Look at it. Look. It is midnight here. It is exactly midnight. Crazy. Election time America. So I'm looking for interesting stats. It's saying that Joe Biden won. The polls are conflicting. Some are saying Joe Biden, some are saying Donald Trump. CNN fact checks Joe Biden for fracking, Trump is connect. I mean, what's fracking? See, you see I got to step my game up? Interesting. And from the polls I've been seeing, the polls have Joe Biden ahead in, from what I've been reading, is a time where this is the most people have voted early in like history. But of course, you have way more options to be able to vote early and everything like that. So I guess,
your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
I don't think we're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now. but it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic. It was horrible. We didn't.
owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go.
I lost my spot. Final jump cut of the video. 5 more minutes left.
Every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, you know, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And, you know, I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
Now, that right there is scary. Also, you know what's kind of ironic is that the man who's being blamed, which, I don't agree with a lot of the ways he's handled the virus, but the man is being blamed for, like, not taking it seriously and pretty much saying, like, it was not that big of a deal. Like, we're going to heal from the shit. He and his family catches it and then heals from it. It's crazy. I'm TstreeT Controversy. I was going to say with Fight View 360, well, this is a fight. The fight for your vote. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. I'm involved in something where, I just wish that going forward in the future that people took me seriously, because a part of me is like, man, election day come around and then the winter, we may not be back to normal again or some type of normalcy. For example, I have an issue where there's something that's affecting my personal life is I want the country back open because I want to go to family court. I haven't seen my child in months. Me seeing my child is contingent, and my mental health is contingent on the country opening back up. So imagine having to pay child support and not seeing your child because the country's closed, while the mother is in contempt. It's just crazy. And we're talking about missing children and everything. My child is technically missing. The country shut down. The last time I had to go to court, I had to be to court in like 3 weeks or something, and the country shut down. So I look at it like this. I'm high risk. My father's high risk. I'm not supposed to be out there. Yet I want the country to open back up so I can see my kid. So you see the tough situation I'm in when it comes to where my vote is going. And the fact that no matter where it goes, I got to deal with the unrest that's probably going to follow it. So I'm urging you, hey man, do your best to, prepare, make sure you have that talk with your family. Also, more importantly, for those who are high risk, make sure you do your best to stay away from people, and not get COVID. I've had to have the same talk with my family. Even though I'm doing my little trips and everything like that, I'm making sure, like, so who was you around? Please, if you're going to where, you sure you want to? No, we can't. I'm saying, I'm going to be out. I'm going to go back to my motherfucker. I'm going to be with my pop by myself, me and my dog. So I do not want to go through that again. Being in a coma for 3 weeks or just, anytime you get like a little cough or think you're coming down with a cold, because a part of me feels as though I had COVID earlier this year. Because I got the sickest I've ever been since I had the coma. And remember, just because the news said it was over here, when they said it was over here, no telling how long it was over here before that. I know multiple people who got the sickest they've ever been, like in like a while. To the point where I'm running around and you notice the thermometers are sold out, like everywhere and shit. I had to use the nebulizer for the first time, and I got post-traumatic stress disorder just talking about it. I'm like, bro, leave it alone, bro. Leave it alone. But I'm TstreeT Controversy. I'm going to get back onto my boxing tomorrow. Please subscribe. We cover every single major fight live. And of course, yes, I am growing into it, but I do dabble in the world news. So I want to get the channel to be an actual channel to where one day you'll get this, one day you'll get that. We got the podcast, all that coming. You know, Fathers Against Abuse. That's the name of my website. FathersAgainstAbuse.com. Please subscribe.